although the absence of evidence on justification does not exempt this court from the obligation to conduct the justification analysis, I can conceive of no reason to hold that the limitation is justified. It is thus declared that insofar as it makes it impossible for candidates to stand for political office without being members of political parties, the Electoral Act is unconstitutional. The appeal must succeed. In accordance with the principle of objective invalidity, a declaration of invalidity that is not coupled with a limit to its retrospective effect would invalidate all elections that followed the first election under the Constitution. For that not to happen, the declaration of invalidity must take effect from the date of this judgment. And it is fitting to suspend the declaration of invalidity to afford Parliament an opportunity to correct the defect. And a reasonable period of suspension is 24 months.
All right, we're still getting reaction on this Constitutional Court judgment declaring the Electoral Act unconstitutional, parts of it that deals with independent candidates. We're joined now by political analyst Professor Dirk Kotze. Professor, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much.
Sir, this judgment, many calling it historic, I guess rightfully so. It changes the way we do things for the future. 2024, it's going to be looking totally different. Your thoughts?
Yes, I think this is a radical decision. It will radically change the electoral system for national and provincial elections. It's already in place for local government elections. I think the most important decision that the Parliament will have to take is how many seats of the 400, because the Constitution says the Parliament can have between 350 and 400 members of the National Assembly. How many of them can be individuals, therefore? In the case of local government, it's a 50-50 division between proportional representation and individual representation. That type of decision will have to be taken also in respect of the National Assembly. And that's not a simple decision, because I think at this stage the political parties still want to have the majority of seats. So that will be the first one. The second one is about who are they going to represent? On what basis will they be elected?
Yeah.
Will there be, therefore, new constituencies established right across the country that individuals can then contest within those constituencies? Will the same take place at provincial level, that provinces will divide it into provincial constituencies? Or will it be like, for example, what the Van Zyl Slabbe task team concluded is that there will be constituencies, but big constituencies.
Yeah.
Representative per constituency. So it opens up a huge debate about the electoral system that should be implemented. And I don't think those implications have been taken into account yet or have been addressed yet at this stage.
But do you see it following the way we do things in municipal elections, where an independent candidate can stand, they just need to be nominated?
No, it won't follow the same route. I think what we are going to see is that, first of all, there will be fewer than 50% of the total number of will be individual candidates. I don't want to call them independent, because I guess or anticipate what's going to happen is those vacancies that will exist where individuals can be elected will be filled by party members. The political party will put forward their candidates as individuals, like what is happening at the moment at local government level. There's exceptionally few candidates at local government level who are indeed independent, who are not aligned to any political organization. And the reason for that is that the proportional representation system will still remain dominant. And that will determine the dynamics within, whether it is parliament or the provincial legislature or local government, of how, for example, caucuses are formed.
Right.
Because if the decision making is based on a one person, one vote, in any of these legislatures, if you have a small number of independent candidates, yes, there can be a voice, but they won't be really very effective in decision making.
So just break this down further for us, Professor, with regards to an individual candidate or independent candidate. Can that person run for president?
Strictly speaking, yes. The Constitution is not saying anything about that the person must be aligned to a political party. The only thing that the Constitution says is that that person must be a member of Parliament or be elected as a member of Parliament. The moment that person is then elected as president, he or she must resign as member of Parliament and continue as president. So over and above that, there's no limitations on what is the alignment or the political affiliation or anything like that with regard to a member of Parliament.
I was speaking to Vuyani Pambo, EFF spokesperson, a little earlier on. I posed a question to him with regards to personality politics and what does this mean with this new electoral system. Do you foresee it having any sway in terms of the next elections in 2024? Mr. Pambo kind of brushed it off, but is this a factor?
It can develop into a factor, but it's going to depend on the personalities of the persons. No, it opens up the possibility for real independence movements or independence candidates and independent personalities. That is certainly going to be possible in future. And you have if it's a person who wants to, be in Parliament and to have a national voice, that nothing will stop that from happening. So that is indeed the case. Again, it comes back to the point is what ultimately will be the influence of that in terms of decision making. Because when it comes to decision making, our Constitution is not about how convincing our arguments necessarily are, but it's basically based on caucuses, on party caucuses and voting by majority. And that is in the end. I think what might happen is that if there's really influential individual candidates, different parties will try to cooperate with them and bring them into alliances with them and form sort of joint caucuses in that respect. That is indeed a possibility. But again, my anticipation is that it will initially be at a very small scale and very low level, and not as it is now being presented as something of a major breakthrough where the dynamics of politics is going to change completely. But as I said, what is going to change very radically is the electoral system. But the implications of that in the real politics of the day, I'm not sure that is going to make such a big difference. Incidentally, I must mention that this has been anticipated, and in this the Act on the Funding of Political Parties that was signed by President a few months ago, they already included the independent members of Parliament and the provincial level. In the latest amendment to the Power Act, which is based also on national judgment and which reached the same conclusion about independent candidates. So this is not the first judgment on this, who includes that. So I think this judgment now, in a sense, was very much influenced by those legislative developments that already took place.
The line not too good to you, Professor, but we got the gist. Thank you very much indeed for your perspective. We will no doubt touch base with you a little later on to get your take on matters. There's so many facets to the story apart from the electoral system. But we thank you very much indeed for joining us. Be well.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was political analyst there, Professor Dirk Kotze. We're going to take